Okay, while waiting, a welcome already to those who are here. We will start this webinar in 3 minutes at 2 o'clock in Europe, in Central Europe, and 10 o'clock in Brazil. So we'll just have 3 more minutes, quiet minutes, before I welcome you all officially. It's very strange to be waiting so quiet, isn't it? Okay, 1 more minute to go. I can see that so far we have 6 participants. So we'll just wait another minute and see if somebody else joins us. Okay, we still got the stable 6 participants. So I welcome everybody and a special good morning to Brazil. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar, which will tackle the German research and innovation landscape. I am Anniken Reise from DLR Project Management Agency in Bonn, Germany. And this is a webinar series presented by Enrich in Brazil. But first of all, I would like to welcome and thank our distinguished speakers here today. After a short introduction I will be giving about Enrich in Brazil, I will hand over the microphone to Christina Peters from the German Academic Exchange Service, who will inform us about opportunities in Germany for international researchers. Afterwards, Marcio Weichert from the German Center for Research and Innovation in Sao Paulo will have the word. And then Thomas Timm from the German Brazilian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Sao Paulo, located as well, will brief us about the innovation landscape in Germany. And last but not least, the startup scene in Germany will be presented by Mercedes Frigolz. I would like to outline some organizational issues as well. This webinar is being recorded and will be presented online on our web platform afterwards so that it can be shared and downloaded whenever needed. All participants are muted during this webinar, but we will have a question and answer session at the very end. After all the presentations, you will be able to ask via the chat so that we will be able to answer your doubts. So now the Enrich in Brazil initiative. Enrich stands for European Research and Innovation Centers and Hubs and is an initiative funded by the European Commission. At this moment, we count on 3 pilot initiatives, 1 in Brazil, 1 in China, and 1 in the US. And the mission all these pilot services have in common is that they want to become a main hub, in our case for European Brazilian cooperation in science, technology, and innovation, to facilitate the direct contact with multiply and umbrella organizations between Europe and Brazil by offering services from which some are paid. Enrich in Brazil actually has a physical office in Brasilia, co-located at our partners' premises at CNI, the National Confederation of Industry. And all 3 Enrich initiatives, Brazil, China, and the US, also share one headquarter in Brussels in Europe. Enrich in Brazil is a consortium of 12 partner organizations, 8 from Brazil and 8 from Europe, and 4 from Brazil. And this slide is just to show you some selected services which are being provided by Enrich. These services are provided in part in Brazil, in Europe, or online as this webinar. We are offering workshops and trainings, matchmaking services. We also have certified soft landing hubs in Brazil already. We offer consultancy services and market studies or funding opportunities, information, documents elaborated by the partners of Enrich. I would like to outline 2 services which are coming up now. This 10th of December, this is next Tuesday in Brasilia. There start the innovation talks, opportunities for innovation in free trade Brazil-Europe, with a special presentation by the ambassador of the European Union to Brazil, because this is also to celebrate the launch of Enrich in Brazil Association, formally established by then. And the day after, on the 11th, Wednesday 11th of December, a workshop about innovation management also to take place in Brasilia. As I said before, you can also find all this information on our website, Enrich in Brazil website. So please join us and subscribe our newsletter so that you can stay informed about all our activities. So I would now like to hand over the microphone to Christina Peters from the German Academic Exchange Service. As I said before, Christina actually is currently leading the central office for the global network of German science and innovation centers at the central office here in Bonn, Germany. But before that, she was also responsible for the connection office of the Freie Universität, the university in Berlin, located at the German center in Sao Paulo. So she knows both the landscapes in Brazil and in Germany. I will now pass the micro. Okay, Christina, so now you should be able to show your presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anniken Reiser. I hope that you can hear me well, and I thank you again, Anniken Reiser, for inviting me to this webinar. So a very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the DAD and also of Research in Germany and the German Centers for Research and Innovation. Bem-vindos a este webinar. In the next 10 minutes, I will present to you the German research landscape in a nutshell. At the end, I will also give some advice on where you can find further information. As was already said, my name is Christina Peters. I'm working here at the DAD and I'm responsible for the global network of the German Centers for Research and Innovation. You can find them at 5 cities around the world, and one of those centers is located in Sao Paulo. And I'm also very glad that my colleague Marcel Beichert, who is here today with us, is going to give you more details on this platform. But first of all, some facts and figures on structures and financing of the German research landscape. First of all, science and research in Germany are characterized by excellent infrastructure. There are 1,000 public and publicly funded institutions for science, research and development. German higher education institutions maintain various bilateral, European, also multilateral cooperations with more than 155 countries. And there is a massive sum of 100 billion euros that was invested in research and development in Germany in 2017 alone. And part of this funding goes to projects in universities and also in non-university research institutions and also in government research labs. There are around 686,000 people that are working in the R&D sector. And on the next slide here, you can see that, or how the investment in research and development increased over the last decade. Germany is really one of the countries worldwide that invests most in research and development. And also in comparison to other countries, you can see that here, Germany is ranging on top here together with the United States in order to make Europe one of the most competitive and dynamic knowledge-based economies in the world. The member states of the European Union had set a target within the Lisbon strategy to raise its research investments to as close as possible to 3% of the gross domestic product. And Germany has reached this target. We have an intensity of 2.9%. Just to compare it to Brazil, Brazil spent in 2016 1.2% of its GDP in R&D. In Germany, you also have a lot of researchers per million inhabitants. We have almost 5,000 researchers per 1 million inhabitants in Germany. Just to compare that to Brazil, there are 881.4 in Brazil per 1 million inhabitants. The next slide shows you some selected data on publicly financed research expenditures in billion euros. In Germany, somewhat similar to Brazil, the federal government and the 16 states, the so-called Länder, share responsibility for funding education, science and research. And here you can see that the federal government spends 15.6 billion euros a year on R&D, and the German states invest an additional 12.4 billion euros. What is important to state here, I will come to that later again, is that direct government funding is not available for individual researchers. Instead, the individual researchers can seek support from research funding organizations, but I will come to that later again. I will come to the next slide. This is research expenditures by sector. Just one question. Are you seeing my, can you see the whole slide, or is there maybe the toolbar? Because I can see the toolbar here.
I can see the whole slide.
You can see the whole slide. Okay, then everything is all right. I was just asking me that. So this slide here is on research expenditures by sector. As you can see here, that more than 2/3 of this total is spent by industry. Higher education institutions account for 17% of the spending, and one special characteristic of R&D in Germany is the involvement of large non-university research institutes. These mainly belong to the 4 major internationally very renowned research organizations, namely the Max Planck Society, Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, Helmholtz Association and Leibniz Association. I will also come back to them later. And these non-university research institutions, for example, Helmholtz, invest 14% of the R&D total. And what you can see here is that we are very international also at the universities. This slide shows you that there is a steady increase in the number of international scientific staff at universities. But please note, this chart here shows only staff at universities. This is not the entire R&D sector. And then on the next slide here, you can see international researchers without industry in Germany. There's also the academic staff at non-university research institutions and also guest researchers. As I said, the industrial sector is not included here, but you can also see that we are quite international. We have 121,000 international researchers in Germany that are currently working at these institutions. And what you can see here is international guest research by funded group. This is important for you. Maybe some of you are interested in doing a PhD or postdoc in Germany, and you can see here that PhDs and postdocs are very strongly funded on the same level. So this may be relevant for you. These are the foreign visiting academics and researchers by funded group that you can see here. Let me come to the next slide. The pillars of the German research sector. The key message will be that German research has 3 pillars as base. There are different types of research institutions. There are the universities, also the universities of applied sciences. There are the non-university research institutes I already mentioned. There are also companies and also federal as well as state institutions, and there is industrial research in Germany. This is also important, that might be interesting for you, that industry and research cooperate in many areas in Germany. For example, there are various joint programs and also research projects that involve companies as well as research and research funding organizations. There is, for example, the German Research Association that supports knowledge transfer between research and industry, and there are also clusters in Germany. This is networks that involve both industrial and academic institutions in one region that share a common field of activities. They create synergies. Just to give you one example, there is, for example, the Medical Valley in Nuremberg that's a cluster about healthcare, and this cluster, for example, also involves Brazilian partners, so they are also working quite internationally. Let me come to funding institutions in Germany. We have different types of funding institutions. Various organizations in Germany fund research projects and individual researchers. The largest organizations that award financial support to individuals and the research projects are the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, the DFG, the German Academic Exchange Service, the DAD, and also the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. In addition to these large funding organizations, there are many other public and also private bodies that provide financial support for science and research. Important donors also include the European Union, and a large number of charitable foundations also have set themselves the goal of supporting research and junior researchers. And when it comes to the support and also funding of research projects, the non-university research institutions and also the industry play a major role in the funding system. They especially support young research with job offers, for example. Let me now come to research conducting institutions, and let me talk about research at universities. Germany has a multifaceted and well-developed higher education system. I already mentioned that. German universities are among the best in the world, and therefore they represent an excellent option for the next step, also maybe in your research career. Germany has almost 400 higher education institutions, and 156 of them are authorized to confer doctorates. But the German higher education system in general is characterized by a very close link between learning, teaching, and research. This is a very strong characteristic. And there are also a lot of international PhD students enrolled at German university. Every year, 5,000 international PhD students successfully complete their doctorates here. And there are approximately 46,000 international academics that work in German higher education. I also wanted to mention the so-called excellence strategy. Germany has invested a very large amount of money in its universities in the last decade. This has been intended to secure the long-term international competitiveness of German research, and certainly has contributed to Germany becoming one of the most popular host countries also for postdoctoral junior researchers. From universities, I will go to non-university research. I have already mentioned the 4 major internationally renowned research organizations. These are the so-called Big 4. You have them here. You have Fraunhofer. Fraunhofer is Europe's largest application-oriented research organization. They have a total of 70-20 institutes, and they work together under its umbrella in 6 major areas. This is health and environment, security and protection, communication and knowledge, mobility and transport, production and supply of services, energy and resources. Then there is the Helmholtz Association. This is the largest scientific organization in Germany. They have 18 independent research institutes within the association, and they pursue their long-term research goals to topics from state and society, and also maintaining and improving the living conditions of the population. Then there is Leibniz. They have 90 independent research institutes that they connect under one umbrella, and they address research issues of international societal relevance, from the humanities over social sciences to natural sciences and engineering. And the Max Planck Society, which is named after the physicist Max Planck, is one of Europe's leading basic research organizations. They have a total of 84 research institutes in Germany, in Italy, also the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and the United States. And the research is conducted in natural sciences, life sciences, humanities, and social sciences. And often they have also a very interdisciplinary approach. Let me have some words on funding opportunities in Germany that might also be interesting for you. There exist very different programs for very different purposes. Generally said, there are 2 main pillars of funding. First, there is individual funding. That means that you as a person can apply. And secondly, there is project funding. Here, the institution that can apply for the funding is a university, for example, and in most cases, it's the university, the German university, that applies for this funding. A research stay in Germany can last from 1 month to several years, and is usually tied to a specific project and also a collaborating institute. There are many different organizations and institutions in Germany that are involved in funding research. Direct government funding is not available for individual researchers. I already said that. Instead, you can seek support from research funding organizations. I already mentioned them, as for example, Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, also the German Academic Exchange Service or Humboldt Foundation. These organizations have specially tailored programs for international researchers. So generally said, there is funding for all short stays, as also for longer research. As for example, a complete doctorate, and there are also different types of funding. You can have paid PhD position, for example, or you can receive a scholarship. And I don't know if there are any postdocs, or if you are interested in a postdoc, but for postdocs, it's worth mentioning that there are several funding programs for international postdocs also, and that funding generally includes your own salary and also expenses for staff and consumables. Here you have a very detailed list. This list is not even complete. There are only some selected examples of funding for PhD students. I just want to show you this list. You can refer to our brochure, Funding Your Research in Germany, and also to our website. I will show the link to you later, and there you can have this very detailed overview. And we have the same list for postdocs here. This is also not complete, but just to show you what a wide variety of funding we have in Germany. So if you need more information, please visit, for example, the funding guide to find scholarships, also from other German funding organizations, not only from the DAD, or you can visit the PhD Germany database, where German universities and research institutions offer their positions. And you can also look in our brochure, Funding Your Research in Germany, and you can also consult our website about research funding. And yeah, thank you very much. This is the contact, but also I would like to say that you really should contact my colleague Marcel Weichert in Sao Paulo. In Sao Paulo, the German Center bundles all the information and all the advice. And I think I will give the word to Marcel Weichert now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christina Peters. That was a very interesting presentation. For those participants who have joined us during the presentation, please note that question and answers you will be able to ask them at the very end of all the presentations. So now, as Christina already said, we would like to hand over the microphone to Marcio Weichert, who since 2012 is the program manager at the German Center for Research and Innovation in Sao Paulo. Please, Marcio Weichert, now it's your turn to inform us.
Thank you, Anakin. Hello, everybody. Yes, I hope it works. So you are seeing my presentation.
Perfectly well.
Okay, fine. So the German Center for Research and Innovation in São Paulo is part of a network, as Christina has already presented and said. So, and this network, in this network, we have 5 centers, 5 units. So besides São Paulo, we have the VIHs, as we say our name, our acronym in German is easier than in Portuguese and in English. So the VIH is easier than DWH or DWIH. So, so we have New York, Moscow, New Delhi, and Tokyo, as you can see here in the map. And this network is part of the science foreign policy of the German government. And the VIHs were inaugurated 2012, and since 2017 all the VIHs are under the coordination of DAD, and Christina Peters in Berlin, in Bonn, is our coordinator by the DAD. So this is an initiative of the German government by the Federal Foreign Office, together with the Alliance of Science Organizations in Germany, the Wissenschaftsallianz, and the Association of German Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the DIHK, as representative of the business sector. And the objectives of the network are the exchange of knowledge, the scientific cooperation, and the cooperation between science and companies. And also, so we do marketing for Germany as land of ideas, and we offer information and advice about study in Germany, research in Germany, cooperation with Germany, innovate with Germany. So the house here, our center, we have many supporters. The supporters are the organizations, the scientific organizations that are linked to us. Some of them have offices here in Brazil and own representatives. Other ones are only in Germany, but they are linked to us. They can influence and participate in our activities, in our program. So actually, we are the DVH with the higher number of supporters worldwide. I think that is still so. Christina can confirm it later. So we have currently 11 universities and 2 alliances of universities or higher education institutions, 3 non-university research associations, 3 funding organizations, and 2 representations of states from Germany, and 1 organization for application tests. And here you can see our supporters. So these are the full supporters with own representatives in Brazil. So if you are in Brazil, if you are in São Paulo, you can do appointment to have a personal contact and visit us here in São Paulo and have directly information from the representatives of these organizations. So you can see DAD, Humboldt, DFG as funding organizations. CAST is the organization that is responsible for application tests, like the tests about the German language to study in Germany and for other goals as well. And then we have universities and an office of the Fraunhofer Society. So in the associated supporters that they are the supporters that they have not personnel in Brazil, no office in Brazil, but they are linked to us. You can see here many universities or higher education institutions. You have here the both organizations from Bavaria and from Baden-Württemberg, and Max Planck and Leibniz as well. And what we do, so we have some money from the German government to organize or to support events. These events then they work as platforms for knowledge exchange and also for networking between researchers, young researchers, senior researchers, with the perspective to start new collaborations or to deepen them, and also to connect researchers from science and researchers from companies. So, and here some slides about our main events. Every year, each year we are on the annual meeting of SBPC, the Brazilian Society for the Advancement of Science. Next year it will be in Natal. So we have there above, and we organize a roundtable and a large program. Together with the German Chamber in Brazil, the AHK, we organize the German Brazilian Innovation Congress. This is a very big event with many representatives, high representatives from business, from German companies, from Brazilian companies as well, and we bring in many researchers from academia as well, and we bring each year 3 speakers from the German academy with the recently inputs about the topics of the Congress. This year, we had the keynote about artificial intelligence and panelists in the area of telemedicine and energy from sewage. Next year, it will be in September 2020, in September. Our main event is the German-Brazilian Dialogue on Science, Research, and Innovation. This event we organized together with FAPESP. FAPESP is the funding agency from the state of São Paulo. Each year we have a new topic to the dialogue, and next year we will discuss cities and climate. Cities and climate is as well the annual topic subject of all the DVH network worldwide. And so other events next year that are already in plan. So the International Seminar on High Tech in Piracicaba. This is a very important meeting with researchers from academia and from companies. A very successful initiative. We will have a workshop in the area of digitalization and virtualization of product development and product production. Is an initiative from HOPA IPK with ITA, the Institute of Aeronautical Technology in São José dos Campos, and so the University of Munich, the LMU. So we will organize two events. So a teacher training in the area of for professors in the area of health, and a workshop on microscopy techniques. The first one in Vitória, Espírito Santo, and the second one in Ribeirão Preto with us as a partner. And each year we have workshops for PhD candidates. This is a workshop. These are workshops that are organized by the FU Berlin and the TU Munich. And I hope we will have next year again a seminar for postdoc candidates as well. So, and for young researchers that have really transformating projects and ideas, we have the Falling Walls Lab. The Falling Walls Lab is a contest that is organized by the Falling Walls Foundation worldwide, and the final phase is in Berlin in the days that Germany celebrate the wall fall, and there are 100 candidates, and 2 are from Brazil. This year, one came from Pará, was the winner from the Falling Walls Lab in Fortaleza, and other one from Minas Gerais. And the successful story of our Falling Walls Labs in Brazil is José Augusto Stuck, that was our winner 2016. He comes from Unicamp in Campinas, and he has a startup, has founded a startup. And this year he could go on market with his Aya Cloud, this digital retinograph. Another initiative that is for young researchers or for entrepreneurs is the Falling Walls Venture. We don't organize the Falling Walls Venture in Brazil. There is no event in Brazil, but the candidates can apply directly to by the Falling Walls Foundation. This is our startups from universities, and if one from Brazil is selected to be in Berlin, the VH fund the travel to Berlin. Okay, this year was the first time that
I'm sorry, Marcio, I can't hear you. I don't know about the rest. Is it my technique or is it?
I also can't hear him.
Marcio, something has happened.
Can you not hear me?
Yes, now it's fine. There was just a short break. I don't know why, where you became mute.
Maybe the connection.
Okay, thank you.
Normal. Should I go ahead from this point or back? No.
Yes, please. It was very short. No.
Okay. As a sign that is that the Brazilian research is also very international, the representative of this startup is a research from Pakistan that she did her doctorate PhD in Campinas, and nowadays she is a professor, a visiting professor, and research in São Carlos. So if you are interested to apply for Falling Walls Lab and Venture, please stay in contact with us. Another challenger initiative is the Startups Connected Award. This is an initiative of the German Chamber, and there are many categories for Brazilian startups, but we finance the category for German startups. So German startups that are interested to come to Brazil. So one startup from Germany will be financed by us to come and stay 1 week in Brazil doing contacts. Yes, so there are no time to present funding programs from our supporters, but you know, we have a lot of supporters, funding agencies as supporters. We have many opportunities from our supporters to study, to research, and so on, to collaborate. And I can only recommend you that you stay in contact with us if you have interest. So, and the best way is to sign our newsletter. Because I know you don't have time to check our website every day, and the algorithms don't permit you that you have all our offers in Facebook or in LinkedIn. But follow us in these social media and sign our newsletter. Once in a month, you will receive a newsletter with the recent funding programs, offers, and opportunities, and also you will be informed about the next events from us and from our supporters. And that was from my side. Here are our contact dates. So we are here in São Paulo, but we travel all Brazilian-wide, so we can find us in many events in Brazil. Thank you very much. So, and at the end of our webinar, I will stay here to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Marcio Eichert, for this very comprehensive picture of the German Center for Research and Innovation, especially for Brazilians. So you see that you have advice within your reach in Brazil. I would like to introduce you now to our next speaker, Thomas Timm from the German-Brazilian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, also located in Sao Paulo. And he is, for 15 years, I read already, the managing director of the so-called AHK in Sao Paulo. And I will now pass over to you so that you can share your presentation. And for those who have joined us meanwhile, as Marcio Weichert already said, you will be able to ask questions at the very end of the presentations. So please, Thomas Timm, it's your turn. I can see your presentation. But you have to unmute just a moment. We cannot hear you yet. Just a second. So now we should hear you. Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much for being part of this presentation. I think this is what Brazil needs, positive agenda and showing that even in difficult times, specifically when it comes to the image of Brazil overseas, I think we should promote that there are a lot of positive projects are going on, and even in difficult times, the German-Brazilian relations is moving forward. I will share with you something I had the opportunity to present very briefly last week with the Minister of Infrastructure, because I think it's very relevant to show that Brazil is still on the agenda, and recent economic figures show that there is a recovery of the economy. That means that also all kinds of initiatives you're looking for to being funded, it coming in an appropriate moment. And if you are preparing, all of us, Christine, Anneke, and Marcio, and me, we are prepared to help you and to find your way through this jungle of funding and all these problems. In short terms, São Paulo, Brazil is turning into a hotspot for startups. As a matter of fact, at this point, about 4,000 startups are being analyzed in our radar, and Marcio already showed the Startup Connected initiative and our Innovation Congress. We have about 2,400 startup companies within our database. That means we are very close to this new segment, and this not only means that this our future associates, but exactly it's the future we are talking about. And this is something everybody is convinced that because of the creative potential in Brazil, and specifically of these new young generation, we are very, very proud to be part of it, and we are very confident that this will turn out a great opportunity. In terms of I will not go through the presentation at all. It's just, as you may know, Brazil has all the relevant success factors as a country. This is always good to remember that it's a large country with a large population, very fertile areas, and that these fertile areas, and this is the objective, to be used in a sustainable way. So the Cities and Climate Initiative and the theme for the 2020 Innovation House presentation next year is a very appropriate one. Seeing, I've been on last week on Friday in Berlin, and there were about 100,000 people on the streets fighting for a new climate understanding. If you look at the German traditional investment, this is, like you may see always, it's very similar. So it's major. It's automotive industry, we have the chemical industry, industrial machinery, equipment, finance, and others. So it's not different in other countries, but it's and this is something I think should be considered. Germany is very present in Brazil. That means our chamber, for instance, here for over 100 years, like many other companies are, so it's nothing new, and you can be based on a very strong experience in the past. The exports, inland exports are basically derived from this presence, the machinery, the automotive industry, etc., etc. So I think it's just to give you a brief understanding of what Germany industry means in Brazil. As a chamber in São Paulo, we have the privilege of being part of the largest chamber network worldwide. We have 140 representative offices, colleagues all over the world. So it's not only Germany and Brazil we are talking about. If you are in contact with one of these offices, you can reach out to the world. In Brazil, we have a dense network also. We have 3 chambers, which are sister chambers in Porto Alegre, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo, with 1 subsidiary in Curitiba, but we are present all over the country because we have a representation agreements with the honorary consulates of Germany, which is about 13. So if you want to be present in one of the corners of Brazil, we are there, and we can reach out and have you and have your can get your attention. So in a nutshell, what we are doing, the German Chamber is promoting one event per day in average, and this comes down to the other figures, as we have 1,200 companies as a member base only in Sao Paulo. We have 140 people working on different locations, 12,000 participants directly. We receive annually a lot of very qualified inquiries, 10,000 we are responding about doing business. This has been lower in the last years, but now, and it comes down to delegations. We served about 300 delegations in the recent five years. So I mean, whenever you want to do business in Brazil, we are able to help you. If you look at the three pillars, I would stress only the innovation and technology. I think this is the most important key success factor for the whole German industry worldwide, and specifically in Brazil also. And when we were at that time together with the German Academic Exchange Bureau invited to design and conceptually also build House of Innovation in Brazil, we were very happy to be part of this initiative. And then we inaugurated it less than 10 years ago. And you have to remember that this is an outstanding business card for Germany. There's no other country in the world who has something similar. And Enrich, you know this, the five houses you are representing, if you go around the world. So this is something, it's a very unique differential Germany can offer to our clients, let's say. And then in each area, innovation, sustainability, and foreign trade, we are offering annual Congress, an annual also award. But the most important has to be turned out in the last years for 7 times now. And next year will be the 8th Congress of German-Brazilian Congress Innovation. We promote together with Marcio and his team. So not only we have something to offer this year, there were 800 participants, for instance. We have over 300 projects which were being analyzed in order to receive awards, and this is something I think should be considered. The perspectives in Brazil are better than the usually press will reflect it in Germany or in the general public. You see, we are our members, associates, they are very confident that this will overcome certain difficulties. The first step has been done with the agreement on EU-Mercosur, as you may know, and the next step, there's an agenda for reforms which will be conducted. And although there are some unfortunate comments sometimes from the part of the government, there are very serious and very, I think, technical people in charge of economics in the Brazilian government who will push this agenda forward, and then we are very optimistic that this will result in a better environment. What I think, something I would like to invite you to participate also, I don't know whether this is already present, but we started to participate in the Sustainable Development Goals, I think would say movement. The German Chamber, all of our projects are aligned to these 17 areas. We received the Minister of Development Cooperation, Mr. Dr. Müller, in June, and this was very convincing that we are on the right path in order to promote these objectives. The challenges for Brazil, as I already mentioned, one part is to really transform the agenda of reforms in reality, but the availability to, or the disponibility to increase the competitiveness and open the market, and specifically through an improvement of the qualification of its people. This is something which will be soon have a lot of results, we think. And obviously the improvement of the image of Brazil through defending sustainable projects, a sustainable approach, specifically also when it comes to the Amazon question. I think this is something in the way Brazil will foster the whole discussion and be able to come out of the shadow being the target and the responsible as the climate killer worldwide. Is unfortunately something the image is being told. So I'm coming to my end, and as you see, we always have a very positive, sympathetic participant. Pele, he was at our 100th university anniversary present, and we invited him to also at that time, this is 3 years ago, to use once the German national selection team tricot. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm available for any comments and further questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas Tim. This was also a very informative presentation. And I would like now to introduce our last speaker, Mercedes from Factory Berlin, who is currently the Strategic Partnerships Manager at Factory Berlin, where she's working to grow and enrich the community by forging relationships with partners across industries. But before that, she also created the Speaking and Investors Program for South Summit, the leading conference in Southern Europe and Latin America to connect startups, investors, and corporates searching for innovation. And she will now introduce us into the startup scene in Germany. Welcome, Mercedes. Okay. Yes, sorry, Mercedes, you were still muted. I have just unmuted you. So now we can hear you and see your presentation.
Great. So as you have said, I'm a strategic partnership at Factory Berlin. For the ones who do not know what Factory Berlin is one of the biggest communities for innovators here in Berlin. We try to connect and put together the right people, the right partners, and the right environment for I don't know if you can see the whole screen, right? You can see it? So yeah, yes. We provide sorry. So we provide basically the environment for putting together and for connecting and for making real discussions happen from the corporate side, but also from the startups, freelancers, and other individual members that we have at Factory Berlin. So to continue, as I was saying, Factory Berlin has more than 3,500 individuals that work at Factory Berlin on two of our campuses, because we have a campus in Mitte. For those who knows more about Berlin, Mitte is the center of the city, and then we have another campus which is double size, actually 14,000 square meters at Gorlitzer Park, which is at Kreuzberg, the southern part of Berlin. And then we have in these two campuses all the environment, the tools and facilities for the people to come to work, but also to organize events. We have community spaces and basically the environment for this collaboration, discussions, and knowledge exchange to happen. We have more than 40 partners in-house as well, or in our network, which means that we have corporates and other strategic partners that are working with us to get in touch with this innovation through a startup. So they ask us to get in touch with or to connect with the startups, such as McKinsey, for example, is one of our main partners, and they work closely with the startups, and they help startups to understand the way big corporates or the clients work. So it's a lot about collaborating together and making those connections very meaningful, basically. We also have students as well. We have Nonuniversity, which is an applied science university, and we have them in one of our campus, which is super meaningful for the students because they get to connect with potential founders, with potential employers for them, and as well for our founders and for our startups is a way to get access to talent, to hire basically their students for the companies, and also eventually grow their companies. We also have we have 30 startups in-house, which means that they have their offices with us in one of our campuses, and then we have more than 100 and more than 100, almost 80 startups in our network, basically. So how we put together and how we connect. Sorry, 1 second. Can you give me 1 second? So we have this community, we curate our community, and we would put together our community by creating events, programs, and for us it's also super important the diversity of our community, as well as the trust that we build for our community. As I said, we have more than 70 nationalities in-house, we have 20,000 operated square meters, more than 300 events per year, and something that is very important for us is that we support diversity, and 36% of our founders are female. To continue, as I was saying, the factory effect. So what we try to do is to engage the community by exchange knowledge and showcase the projects of our ventures. So we connect startups with corporates, with students, with freelancers, through as well our digital channels. We also have the creative code because we believe that the creators, the creative background has a lot to do and has a lot to offer with the corporate or with the business world. And here we have some examples, and to give you also a bit of insights on the Berlin startup ecosystem, for you to understand there are some excited companies which are like the big unicorns of Berlin, which is HelloFresh, Delivery Hero, Zalando, or Rocket Internet, who had established the basis for more startups to come. Then we have some of the current unicorns, which is N26, Auto1, Omio, Get Your Guys, and then we have like the rising startups, which are on the way of growing and becoming somehow the future unicorns of Berlin. Here we have Tier from the mobility industry, or Racing, and so on. There is here a small like error, but we have done some research on 3,000 startups. So it doesn't mean that there are only 3,000 startups from Berlin, but we have done the research on these 3,000 startups. 84% of the startups were founded in the last 10 years. And there were 50% of those startups that were founded in the last 5 years, which means that is the last 5 years has been a huge number or a huge time for creating of startups. And then I would like to talk briefly about the investment landscape. So the investors in Berlin has huge capital right now, and the industries, and they are investing basically in most of the industries, such as fintech, health, mobility is another of the biggest industries in the environment right now, or in the state right now. And I would like to highlight here a few of the prominent investors in Berlin. This is more or less for you to understand the ecosystem in Berlin, and this is Factory, so feel free to connect with us if you need at some point. So this is it.
Thank you very much, Mercedes. This, at least for me, this was a totally new environment, very interesting as well. First of all, to the speakers, I have my warmest thanks for your time that you participated to this webinar. Thank you so much. And also to our participants who took their time and their attention to join us here. So we will now open the room for questions and answers to be shared in the chat. For everybody, for your information, I will be the only one to read the chat. So far, there is no question. So we will give you now, the participants, the opportunity to share your questions with our speakers, please. Apparently, the presentations have been very clear. There are no questions yet. So I think we can give another minute to see if somebody might be typing or thinking how to formulate his or her question. But if nothing else comes up, well, as you all know, this webinar will be available still at our homepage, Enrich in Brazil, and the presentations as well, if the speakers are so kind to facilitate them, to send them to me so that we can also put them online afterwards. Yes, I can't see any question. I hope this is not a technical problem. If so, this would be, I would apologize, but as I say, there is no question so far. Okay, so thank you very much once more for your time. Have a nice day in Brazil. You still have a long day here, and maybe my German colleagues may still have a little bit of time to go out into the sun. Thank you so much. Bye-bye to everybody.